let this filthy old man into my gala?
I came to see my daughter receive her award. Her name is Dr. Imani Whitaker.
Your daughter? Impossible. Dr. Whitaker is educated. You look like you crawled out of a bus station.
My wife prepared this suit for me many years ago. I still wear it because some things deserve to be remembered.
Get him out, now. And check that canvas bag before he walks out with something that isn't his.
And just like that, in front of 287 witnesses, Preston Beaumont III ended his own career. He simply didn't know it yet. 6 hours earlier, Theodore Whitaker had woken at 4:30 in the morning, the same way he had woken every morning for 40 years. His house in North Charleston was small, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath with a dripping faucet he kept meaning to fix. The kitchen smelled of black coffee and the starch of pressed cotton. He stood at the ironing board in a white undershirt, pressing his navy suit 1 fold at a time, slowly, carefully, the way a man might press a dress uniform for a parade he had earned the right to march in. On the counter behind him were 2 framed photographs. The first was a little girl, maybe 5 years old, perched on his shoulders, mouth wide open laughing, 2 front teeth missing, Imani at Folly Beach, the summer of 1997. The second was the same girl at 24, in a white coat and a navy blue graduation cap, standing in front of the gates of the Medical University of South Carolina. Her eyes were red. Her smile was the brightest thing in the photograph. Theodore smiled at the photos the way he did every morning. Today, he held his gaze on the second one a little longer. On the kitchen table, he had laid out his gift, a heavy brass compass with a faint scratch across its glass face. It had belonged to his father, Cornelius Whitaker, who had served 28 years in the United States Navy as a Master Chief Petty Officer before dying in an engine fire on the USS Forrestal in 1971. Theodore had been 9 years old when his father didn't come home. Next to the compass was a handwritten letter on plain ruled paper, not fancy stationery, just pages torn from an old military notebook he had carried for 3 decades. He wrapped both items in a square of gray canvas and tied them with a length of jute twine. Simple, the way his father used to wrap things before each deployment. He looked at himself in the bathroom mirror. The suit fit. There was nothing remarkable about it. He straightened his collar and whispered to the empty room. "Adira," he said, "our daughter is being honored tonight. Are you watching?" The mirror gave no answer. It never did. On the small desk by the window, half hidden under a stack of medical journals and 3 old logbooks, sat a leather briefcase with 3 gold letters embossed on its side. W.H.T. Theodore glanced at it. He did not pick it up. Not today. Today he was just a father going to watch his daughter receive an award. The Magnolia Bluff estate, on the other hand, lived in a different world. A long white gravel drive cut through a tunnel of 200-year-old live oaks draped in Spanish moss. The main house had been built in 1847 as the centerpiece of a rice plantation owned by one of the wealthiest slave-holding families in the South Carolina Lowcountry. 3 generations of Beaumonts had poured money into restoring it, repurposing it, and renting it out as the most exclusive event venue in the state. White columns, slate roof, Carrara marble floors imported from Italy. 6 crystal chandeliers shipped from Prague swayed gently in the climate-controlled air, throwing little fractured rainbows across the floor. Tonight was the 70th annual Founders' Night Gala of Beaumont-Hayes Medical Group, a private healthcare conglomerate that owned 23 hospitals and 147 clinics across 7 southern states. The guest list read like a Charleston phone book of the ruling class. Hedge fund managers, 3 sitting state senators, 2 former U.S. ambassadors, the chiefs of surgery from every Beaumont-Hayes affiliate. Most of the faces in the room were white. A dozen or so black guests sat scattered at tables in the back, near the kitchen, far from the stage. Diana Whitfield, the event planner, paced with a clipboard, snapping at the catering staff. Every napkin at 45 degrees, she barked at a young server. "If I see one folded at 30, you and I are going to have a problem." Every candle measured at the exact same height. Every centerpiece spaced 18 inches from the next. Everything perfect. Everything controlled. And then there was Preston Beaumont III, 38 years old, square jaw, Hilton head tan. The kind of smile that made you trust him for about 5 minutes before you realized it never reached his eyes. On paper, he was a success. Chief Strategy Officer of Beaumont-Hayes Medical Group. His father, Bradford Beaumont II, had served as chairman of the board for 23 years. His grandfather, Bradford Sr., had merged two family hospitals into the conglomerate back in 1954. Preston had grown up believing that the company was his birthright. The belief was false, but nobody had ever corrected him. Because 12 years earlier, something had happened that Preston had never truly understood. His family had sold 92% of the controlling shares to an anonymous holding trust after the 2008 financial crisis nearly bankrupted the Beaumont estate. His father had buried the transaction to preserve appearances in Charleston society. Preston had been allowed to keep his title because the new owners agreed to maintain the Beaumont name on the door. A symbol, nothing more. In 12 years, Preston had never met the actual owner of the trust. He had never asked for the name. He had never been curious. To Preston, the company was a brand, a $1.4 million annual salary, a corner office overlooking Charleston Harbor, a Range Rover Sport, and tonight's $80,000 gala. Upstairs in the honoree's dressing room on the second floor of the mansion, Dr. Imani Whitaker was adjusting the strap of her wine-colored gown. She was 32 years old, just under 5'7", with natural curls swept up into an elegant chignon. She was the third youngest physician in the history of Beaumont-Hayes Children's Hospital to be considered for the position of Director of Pediatric Cardiac Surgery. Over the past 14 months, she had performed 23 successful modified Norwood procedures, a 3-stage surgical intervention that saves the lives of newborns born with hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Without surgery, the condition has a 95% mortality rate in the first week of life. Imani's modification reduced operating time from 7 hours to 4 hours and 18 minutes and dropped the post-surgical complication rate by 31.7%. That was why she was being given the Young Physician of the Year award tonight, the most prestigious honor in the entire Beaumont-Hayes system. Beside her stood Aaliyah Brooks, 34, charge nurse of the Pediatric Cardiac ICU, Imani's best friend since their residency days. Aaliyah was adjusting a stray hair clip near Imani's temple. "Your daddy here yet?" she asked. "He'll be here," Imani said. "He's never been 1 minute late to anything in his life." Aaliyah laughed. "Did you tell him the dress code was black tie? He knows what formal is. He's wearing his Navy suit, the one he wore at Mama's funeral." Aaliyah stopped laughing. She nodded once, slow, the way you do when something serious has just been said in passing. "Your daddy is a good man, Imani. Remember that tonight when Preston Beaumont starts doing his little Preston things." "I know what he is," Imani said quietly. "I've worked under him for 18 months. For 18 months, Preston had been quietly blocking her promotion to director. Every time the medical council put her name forward, Preston had found a new reason. Insufficient administrative experience. Not the right fit for Beaumont leadership culture. Needs more time and observation. Imani had filed 3 formal complaints with Human Resources. All 3 had been buried in the desk drawer of a mid-level HR manager named Vincent Holloway, who happened to play golf with Chadwick Pemberton every other Saturday morning. Tonight, Preston would be forced to hand her the award in front of 287 guests. He would smile. He would shake her hand. He would say the right things. And tomorrow he would go right back to doing exactly what he had been doing for 18 months. What Imani did not know was that within 6 hours, all of those calculations would burn to ash. Theodore's rideshare pulled up at the carved limestone arch of Magnolia Bluff at exactly 6:42 p.m. The valet stared at the small sedan the way you might stare at a cockroach crawling onto your dinner plate. Theodore stepped out, navy suit, canvas bag tucked under his right arm. He handed the driver $12 in cash, 4 singles and a 5, and walked toward the front entrance. The first pair of eyes hit him before he reached the bottom step. A woman in a triple-strand pearl necklace nudged her husband. The husband looked, then looked away, then looked again, the kind of second look people give when something doesn't fit the picture they expect. Theodore kept walking. Inside the lobby, the air was cool and faintly perfumed with magnolia and champagne. The chandeliers threw small rainbows across the marble floor. Guests gathered in clusters of 4 or 5, sipping, laughing, performing their wealth for each other. Theodore took 3 steps inside and stopped. Preston Beaumont was already moving toward him, not walking, charging, jaw clenched, eyes locked. The social smile he reserved for donors was gone. In its place was something raw, ugly, older than his 38-year-old face. "Who let this filthy old man into my gala?" Preston's voice carried across the room loud enough that the string quartet faltered for a beat. The lobby went still. Every champagne flute paused at every pair of lips. Theodore did not move. He held the canvas bag against his chest like a shield. "I'm Dr. Whitaker's father," he said, his voice low and even. "I came to see her receive her award." Preston laughed. It was short, dry, dismissive. He glanced at Chadwick Pemberton, the company's chief legal counsel and his closest golf companion. Chadwick laughed with him. A few guests near the bar joined in. Not many, but enough for Theodore to understand that he was standing in a room where cruelty was being decorated with tuxedos and champagne. "Your daughter?" Preston's eyes slid up and down the navy suit. "That's impossible. Dr. Whitaker is educated. Did you pull this jacket out of a Goodwill bin? Tell me, old man, what stop did you take to get here? The bus station downtown? Because that's exactly what you smell like." Theodore did not raise his voice. He had not raised his voice in 40 years. "My wife pressed this suit for me in 2002, he said. "You are insulting a woman who is no longer here to defend herself." A silence dropped onto the lobby like a stone into still water. A few guests looked away. A silver-haired man at a nearby table set down his glass and stared at his shoes. But Preston had gone too far to pull back. "She must have saved a lot," Preston said. "Enough to buy you a glittering road into a room like this. How sweet." Theodore's jaw tightened, just slightly, the kind of tension that only a man who has been insulted many times in his life and has learned how to hold still will ever recognize. But Theodore still did not raise his voice. "My daughter is upstairs," he said. "Please send for her. She will confirm who I am." "I don't need confirmation. I have eyes." Preston snapped his fingers at the two security guards by the entrance. "Get him out, now, and check that canvas bag before he walks out with something that isn't his." Marcus Hayes, the younger guard, 24 years old, just back from a National Guard deployment, hesitated for half a second. "Sir," he said carefully, "perhaps we should radio Dr. Whitaker before we do anything. It's a small thing." "I don't pay you to think, Hayes," Preston's voice sharpened. "Get him out, or you don't have a job in the morning. Am I clear?" "Yes, sir," Marcus said quietly. He looked at Theodore's face. For one heartbeat, two black men communicated everything with their eyes. Theodore gave him the smallest nod, the kind that says, "You are not at fault. Do what you have to do." Marcus placed his hand gently on Theodore's shoulder. "Sir, please come with me." Theodore did not resist. He turned and walked toward the heavy walnut doors. His leather shoes echoed on the marble. Each step rang out in the suspended silence. The chandeliers caught the gray canvas bag still clutched against his chest. Behind him, Chadwick Pemberton, 2 bourbons deep, leaned against the bar and called out loud enough for 50 people to hear. "Looks like the soup kitchen just lost a regular." Laughter, not much, but still some. Theodore pushed the walnut doors open and walked through. They closed behind him with the heavy, final sound of a coffin lid settling. Upstairs in the dressing room, Aaliyah's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Her hand froze. She read the message, then read it again. "Imani," she said. Preston just had someone thrown out of the lobby. Someone in a navy suit." Imani turned away from the mirror. For 1 second, she did not understand. In the next second, her face went white.
"No!"
she breathed. No, that's not. "A girl I know at the front desk just texted me. She says Preston called him a homeless beggar. Said it in front of about 50 people. Imani, I'm so sorry." Imani's chest rose and fell. Once, twice, 3 times. Then she gripped the front of her gown with both hands and ran. She came down the grand staircase in her wine-colored dress. Her curls swept high, her heels striking the marble like a war drum. Guests scattered. Someone dropped a small plate. The champagne tower at the corner of the room trembled. She found Preston at the center of the lobby, adjusting his platinum cufflinks, smiling at a small cluster of executives. He looked like a man who had just taken out the trash and was rather pleased about it. "Preston," she said. He turned. He saw her face. His smile dimmed but did not fully go out. "Dr. Whitaker," he said smoothly. "You look spectacular. Why are you down here? The ceremony begins in 20 minutes. Did you just have my father thrown out of my own gala?" The lobby fell silent for the second time in 15 minutes. Bradford Beaumont II, standing near the bar, turned his head. Helen Beaumont, his wife, set her champagne flute on a side table. "Dr. Whitaker, please." Preston stepped closer and lowered his voice. He looked like a man who had wandered in off the street. "I was protecting the image of the event. You will thank me for it tomorrow." "He is my father, Preston. This is my night." Preston straightened up. His voice hardened. Do the math, doctor. $80,000. The partners from Wachovia Heritage Bank are here. The entire board of directors is here. And your father shows up in a $30 suit looking like he wandered in from the homeless shelter? No, I do not accept that. Imani's lower lip trembled. Not from sadness. From something deeper. You don't even know who he is. Preston rolled his eyes. I know enough. He is a man who could not afford a decent suit to come watch his daughter be honored. That tells me everything. No, Preston. That tells you nothing. Nothing at all. She turned and walked toward the front doors. Preston called after her. Dr. Whitaker, don't make a scene. The ceremony is about to start. She did not stop. Outside, the sun was lowering toward Charleston Harbor. Golden light bathed the stone driveway. Theodore was sitting on a wrought iron bench beneath a 200-year-old live oak, the gray canvas bag resting on his lap. He was not crying. He was not trembling. He was perfectly still. The kind of stillness that only a man who has lived through 64 seasons of grief ever achieves. Imani burst out of the front doors, the train of her gown dragging across the white gravel. She saw him on the bench and her whole body seemed to fold inward. She ran to him, dropped to her knees in front of him, and wrapped her arms around his neck. Daddy, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Theodore held her tightly, one hand cupped behind her head, the other across her shoulders. His eyes closed. It's all right, baby girl. It is not all right. I know. He leaned back, looked into her face, and wiped a tear from her cheek with the calloused pad of his thumb. He knew it was not all right. They sat there for a long moment, father and daughter, on a wrought iron bench outside a gala that had cost more than the down payment on most family homes. Then Theodore took out his phone, an older model Samsung with a small crack at the corner of the screen. He scrolled through his contacts. Imani glanced. She saw names she did not recognize, but she saw one name she had seen on the cover of Forbes magazine just last quarter. She opened her mouth to ask, but he was already dialing. Darius, he said quietly into the phone. It's me. A pause. Yes, he did exactly what you said he would. Another pause. No, I'm not going to make a scene, but I think it's time. He looked at Imani. She looked at him. Something passed between them that did not need words. Come to Magnolia Bluff. Bring the briefcase. He ended the call, slipped the phone back into his pocket, and looked up at the mansion. His face was calm, determined, like a man who had been holding one card in his hand for 12 years and had finally decided to play it. Daddy, Imani whispered, what did you just do? Theodore smiled. The first real smile of the day. I gave him exactly what he wanted. A night he will never forget. And this is the part of the story that changes everything. You see, Theodore Whitaker was not just a retired Navy veteran living quietly in North Charleston. He used the word veteran because it was simple, because it did not invite questions. The truth was something else entirely. Theodore Whitaker was born in North Charleston in 1962. His father, Cornelius Whitaker, was a Master Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy, one of the first black sailors promoted to that rank after the integration of the armed forces. Cornelius died in 1,971 inches an engine fire aboard the USS Forrestal. Theodore was 9. His mother, Etta Whitaker, worked in the cafeteria of Roper Hospital in downtown Charleston for 32 years. She used to bring home discarded medical journals so Theodore would have something to read. In 1981, Theodore enlisted in the Navy. 28 years of service. He started as a mechanic. He ended as a senior chief, the highest enlisted rank below officer. He married Adira Bishop in 1990. They had Imani in 1992. Adira was an emergency room nurse at Trident Medical Center. She died of stage 3 breast cancer in August of 2002, 11 months after diagnosis. After Adira passed, Theodore did 2 things. He requested 6 months of leave to care for 10-year-old Imani, and he invested Adira's $187,000 life insurance payout in a small medical equipment company called CardioMend Solutions, founded by an old Navy friend in Norfolk, Virginia. People often forget how much grief reshapes a man's choices. In the months after Adira's funeral, Theodore had stopped sleeping. He would sit on the back porch at 3 in the morning with a cup of black coffee, listening to the cicadas in the live oaks, holding the same folded handkerchief Adira had used to wipe Imani's forehead during the last week of her life. He kept the handkerchief in his wallet for the next 22 years. He still keeps it there now, and he made a promise to his wife that he would never break. He would not let Imani grow up afraid. He would not let her grow up small. He would not let her grow up believing that the world's narrow doors were the only doors that existed. When Imani was 11, she came home from 6th grade and told him that her teacher had asked the class what each of them wanted to be when they grew up. I told her I want to be a heart surgeon for babies, Imani had said at the kitchen table that night, her eyes filling. She laughed, Daddy. She told me to pick something more realistic, like a nurse or a teacher. Theodore had sat with his daughter for 2 hours that night while she cried. Then he had quietly gone to a parent-teacher conference the next morning, sat down across from the teacher, and asked her one question. Do you know how many children died of pediatric heart disease in this country last year? The teacher did not know. Theodore did. Thousands, he said. My daughter is going to save some of them. So next time she tells you what she wants to be, you will say yes. Are we clear? The teacher said yes. Imani's grades went from B's to A's that semester. CardioMen's solutions grew quickly. By 2008, just before the financial crash, a large Boston conglomerate bought the company outright for $340 million. Theodore's original $187,000 stake had become $41.7 million after taxes. He told no one, not even 16-year-old Imani. In 2009, Theodore retired from the Navy. In 2010, he created Whitaker Health Trust, WHT, a private investment trust specializing in healthcare assets. The trustee was Darius Holloway, his closest friend since their days together on the USS Theodore Roosevelt in the early 1990s. Darius had retired as a vice admiral and now served as the active chief executive of WHT. Here I need to stop for a moment and explain something to you about what is called a blind trust. This is an important legal structure in American securities law, originally codified by the Ethics in Government Act of 1978. A blind trust allows the owner of assets, called the settlor, to transfer day-to-day management of those assets to an independent trustee. The settlor does not know which specific investment decisions are being made, and the trustee does not disclose them. The original purpose of the blind trust was to allow government officials to avoid conflicts of interest. But in private wealth management, it serves another function. It hides the true owner from the public, from competitors, from journalists, and from anyone who does not need to know. Theodore chose this structure not because he was hiding from responsibility. He chose it for one reason only. Imani was 18 years old, just starting at Hampton University as a pre-med major. He did not want her to grow up inside a closed world. He did not want her worth to be defined by his net worth. He wanted her to be loved for who she was, not for what her father owned. In 2012, Whitaker Health Trust made the largest acquisition in its history. The Beaumont family, devastated by the 2008 crash, had lost 73% of the value of their real estate holdings. 2 of their 6 hospitals were facing bankruptcy. Their debt to regional banks exceeded $1.8 billion. Bradford Beaumont II was forced to sell. He kept the transaction quiet. He retained an honorary chairmanship to save face in Charleston society. WHT acquired 92% of the controlling stock for $1.2 billion. Theodore was the settlor. Darius was the trustee. Theodore Whitaker's name was buried in the legal filings so deeply that no one at the level of vice president or chief strategy officer would ever stumble across it. 12 years. Preston Beaumont III had never met the founder of the trust that owned the company he worked for, never knew the name, never bothered to ask. To Preston, the company was a brand, a salary, a corner office. Every dollar in his bank account, every stock option, every $400 dinner at Husk, every tile of marble in tonight's gala, all of it flowed from the man Preston had just ordered thrown out of the front lobby. The irony was not just obvious, it was suffocating. A black Cadillac Escalade turned into the white gravel driveway at exactly 7 o'clock. It rolled past the rows of Range Rovers and Porsches and Mercedes G-Wagons and parked directly in front of the main entrance. The engine cut. The door opened. Darius Holloway stepped out, 6'2", a 3-piece charcoal pinstripe suit tailored in London, solid silver cufflinks, Oxford shoes polished to a mirror finish. He moved like a man who had walked into hundreds of rooms in his life. The Pentagon, the National Security Council, the boardroom of Goldman Sachs. He had owned every one of them. Under his left arm was a leather Toomey briefcase. In his right hand was a sealed manila envelope. He saw Theodore and Imani on the wrought iron bench beneath the oak tree. He walked toward them. No greeting, no small talk. That was the discipline of a flag officer in the United States Navy. An order issued was an order executed. He opened the envelope. He set the contents on Theodore's lap. The top page was a 5-year performance review of Preston Beaumont III. The kindest summary was average. Most of his major strategic decisions had been copied wholesale from McKinsey. Reports the company had paid $4.2 million to commission. The next pages were 4 internal complaints from Black and Latino physicians and nurses accusing Preston of systematic discrimination. The final page was a 47-page HR investigation report that had been sitting on the desk of Vincent Holloway, a mid-level personnel manager, for 14 months. The same Vincent Holloway who played golf with Chadwick Pemberton every other Saturday. Theodore read each page. His face did not change, cold as stone. Darius watched him. "Ready?" he asked. "Not yet," Theodore said. "Let him put the shovel down first." Darius nodded. "He's still digging." 7:15 p.m. The award ceremony was scheduled to begin in 10 minutes. Guests were drifting from the lobby toward the main ballroom. Chairs had been arranged in neat rows facing a small, raised stage. A white banner hung behind the podium with gold lettering. Beaumont-Hayes Medical Group, 70th Founders Gala, honoring Dr. Imani Whitaker. Preston stood at the podium adjusting his boutonniere for the 3rd time. He leaned toward Chadwick. "Where is Imani?" Chadwick shrugged. "Probably fixing her mascara. You know how women get. Cry first, think later. If she doesn't come down in 5 minutes, I'm presenting it in absentia. Nobody in this room came here for family drama." Bradford Beaumont II appeared at his elbow. 73 years old, white-haired, the bearing of a man who had not spoken his own mind in 3 decades because he had always paid someone else to do it for him. "Preston," he said quietly, "you are embarrassing me tonight. Just keep things smooth." "I am keeping things smooth, Father. The old man is gone. The ceremony will go on as planned." Bradford said nothing further. Something about the way his son had said the old man had turned his stomach. But Bradford had been living with that feeling for 12 years. He did not let himself think about it. Then the double doors at the back of the ballroom swung open. Not gently, not politely. They flew open as if someone wanted the entire room to take notice. Darius Holloway walked in, alone, shoulders back. The pinstripe suit caught the chandelier light like it had been stitched from spun glass. The silver cufflinks flashed. The Oxford shoes were so polished they threw small reflections onto the marble. He did not look left. He did not look right. He walked straight down the center aisle of the ballroom like a man who had just bought the whole building and was deciding whether to keep it. The room rocked on its foundations. It started as a whisper. A man at a table near the entrance gripped his wife's hand. "Honey," he whispered, "is that? Oh my God. That is Darius Holloway, the former vice admiral. He's the CEO of Whitaker Health Trust," someone at the next table murmured. "He was on the cover of Forbes last quarter. WHT manages over $14 billion in healthcare assets. What is he doing here?" The whisper spread table by table like a stone tossed into still water. Preston heard the name before he saw the face. Whitaker Health Trust, the majority shareholder of Beaumont-Hayes. The name his father had kept hidden from him for 12 years. His pulse spiked. His palms went damp. This was not just an opportunity. This could be the moment that changed his entire career. A handshake with Darius Holloway could open doors that $1.4 million a year in salary had never been able to open. He straightened his jacket, tugged his sleeves, summoned the brightest version of the smile he had practiced in mirrors before every quarterly review. He nearly ran across the room. "Admiral Holloway," he called out, voice oiled with admiration. "What an honor! What an extraordinary honor to have you here tonight. I'm Preston Beaumont, Chief Strategy Officer here at Beaumont-Hayes. I've followed Whitaker Health Trust for years. Your keynote at the Duke Healthcare Investment Summit last fall on community capital was nothing short of brilliant." He extended his hand. The Beaumont family signet ring caught the light. "Truly a privilege, sir. Truly." Darius did not take the hand. Preston's fingers hung in the air. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The longest 3 seconds of Preston Beaumont's life. Darius looked at the hand, then at Preston's face. Then he raised his own palm, flat, steady, final. "I know who you are, Preston." Preston's smile faltered. You do, sir?" "I do." Darius's voice was calm. It was not loud. He did not need to be loud. The room had gone so quiet you could hear a pin land on velvet. But I am not here for you. The smile went out completely. I'm sorry. What did you say? Darius did not repeat himself. He never repeated himself. He turned 90 degrees toward the open double doors at the back of the ballroom and extended his right arm. For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Theodore Whitaker walked back in. Same navy suit. Same scuffed leather shoes. Same gray canvas bag clutched to his chest. But something was different. His shoulders were no longer rounded. His eyes were no longer cast down. He walked in like a man who had been carrying a weight for 64 years and had finally decided to set it down. He walked in like he owned the room, because he did. The ballroom fell into the kind of silence that doesn't whisper, the kind that doesn't fidget, the kind that presses down on your chest and makes you aware of every breath, the kind of silence in which you can almost hear a candle flame moving the air. Darius waited until Theodore was standing beside him. Then he turned to face the room. 287 guests. Every eye locked on two black men standing side by side at the entrance to a gala that had tried to throw one of them out less than 30 minutes earlier. Darius spoke. He did not rush. He was not dramatic. He was simply clear, each word set down like a brick. Ladies and gentlemen, he began. For those of you who do not know, and clearly some of you do not know, allow me to introduce. This is Theodore Whitaker, founder and sole settler of Whitaker Health Trust, controlling shareholder of 92% of Beaumont-Hayes Medical Group since 2012, chairman emeritus of the board of directors, the boss of the boss of the boss of every single person in this room tonight. A pause, this one longer. And as I understand it, Darius continued, he is also the father of Dr. Imani Whitaker, the physician you are supposed to be honoring this evening. The words landed like a hammer through stained glass. Helen Beaumont dropped her champagne flute. It shattered on the marble into 100 small, bright pieces. She did not bend to pick them up. She could not. Her hand was still frozen in the shape of the glass that was no longer there. Bradford Beaumont's mouth fell open. The man who had not shown public emotion since the Reagan administration stood there looking like he had been slapped by an invisible hand. He staggered back half a step and grabbed his wife's shoulder to steady himself. Bradford, Helen whispered, her voice trembling, tell me he doesn't mean what I think he means. He means it, Helen, Bradford said quietly. God help us. He means it. Chadwick Pemberton's bourbon glass paused at his lips. His hand shook so hard that the ice cubes rattled against the crystal like teeth chattering in deep winter. Two attorneys from Wachovia Heritage Bank, seated at a nearby table, looked at each other. The look said, we were never here. And Preston. Preston did not just pale. He went chalk white. The color drained from his face so fast it almost looked like a medical event. His lips turned gray. His eyes flew open wide, not with surprise, with horror. The wide-open kind of horror that happens when a brain is processing information the body cannot yet absorb. He staggered backwards. The heel of his shoe caught the edge of the runner carpet. He stumbled, almost fell, and grabbed the back of a chair to keep upright. The chair scraped across the marble with a sound that made everyone in the room flinch. His mouth opened and closed. No sound came out, just air leaving dry lips. Theodore did not gloat. He did not point. He did not smirk. He walked forward until he was 3 meters from Preston, and then he stopped. The canvas bag was still in his hands. I did not come here to make a scene, he said quietly. I came to watch my daughter receive her award. A pause. But it seems the chief strategy officer had other plans. Preston recovered his voice. Barely. His words were hoarse, broken, like someone trying to speak through a throat full of sand. Mr. Whitaker, sir, I didn't. There has been a terrible... I did not know who you were. If I had known, of course. I know you didn't know, Theodore said. His voice was even, almost gentle, which made it worse. That is the problem. You looked at me and decided I didn't belong in this room. You didn't ask my name. You didn't ask the honoree. You saw a black man in a cheap suit and you called security. No, Preston whispered. No, I swear it wasn't about. Wasn't about what? Theodore tilted his head. Race, money, class. He took one step closer. So tell me, Preston, what was it about? Preston's mouth opened and closed. The entire room watched him search for an answer that did not exist. Nothing came out, because there was nothing to say. Then Imani walked into the ballroom, wine-colored gown, eyes still red, mascara still smudged, but her jaw was set like concrete. She walked past the guests, past the floral arrangements, past the champagne tower that no one was drinking from anymore. She stopped directly in front of Preston. She did not shout. She did not scream. Her voice was small and steady, the same voice she used in the operating room when something was going wrong and all that was left was the discipline of control. For 18 months, she said, you blocked my promotion 3 times. Every time you told me it was about leadership culture, I believed you. I filed complaints with HR. They disappeared. She shook her head slowly. Tonight you showed me exactly what that culture is. Tonight you told me everything I needed to know about you. She unpinned the honoree badge from her gown, a small golden disc with the word honoree engraved on the front, and set it gently on a nearby table. I am refusing this award, she said. I will not accept anything from your hands, Preston. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not ever. She turned her back on him, walked over to her father, slid her arm through his. The two of them, navy suit and wine-colored gown, walked back through the same double doors that security had pushed Theodore through 28 minutes earlier. No one stopped them. No one said a word. No one even dared to breathe too loudly. Preston dropped to his knees, not slowly, not gracefully. He collapsed as if someone had cut the strings holding him up. Both knees hit the marble floor with a crack that echoed through the silent ballroom. 287 witnesses watched a grown man in an $8,000 tuxedo kneel on the floor like a beggar. The irony was almost poetic. Dr. Whitaker, he croaked, please come back. His voice cracked on the third word. Then Darius stepped forward. He walked past Preston on his knees, set the leather briefcase on a nearby table, and opened it with the calm precision of a surgeon laying out instruments. 3 documents were placed on the table. Each one landed like a knife in a coffin. Preston Beaumont, Darius said. Preston lifted his head from his kneeling position. His eyes were wet. His tie was askew. He looked like a man witnessing his own funeral. Document 1, Darius said. The acquisition agreement of Beaumont-Hayes Medical Group, dated the 14th of November 2012, between Whitaker Health Trust, settlor Theodore Whitaker, and the Beaumont family shareholders. Value of the transaction, $1.2 billion. Bradford Beaumont looked down at the floor. He could not look at anyone. Document 2, Darius continued. A formal grievance filed by Dr. Marcus Coleman, a pediatric hematologist at Beaumont-Hayes Children's Hospital. He was passed over for promotion to department chair on 4 separate occasions over 36 months. The reason cited each time was, and I quote, not the right fit for Beaumont leadership culture. The same exact language you just used about Dr. Whitaker. Document 3, a 47-page internal HR investigation report that has been sitting on Vincent Holloway's desk for 14 months. It identifies a systematic pattern of discriminatory behavior across your entire strategy department. 7 minority employees affected, all interviewed, all on record. Darius straightened. Your conduct violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the federal statute that prohibits employment discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It also violates the ethics clause in Section 14.2 of your employment contract with Beaumont-Hayes Medical Group. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. Your stock options, valued at approximately $3.4 million, are voided under the morals clause. Corporate security will collect your credentials Monday morning. You are not to set foot on any property owned or operated by this corporation. The board of directors, with the consent of the settlor, is also referring your conduct to the South Carolina Human Affairs Commission for administrative review. Bradford pushed through the crowd. Wait, he said, his face purple. You cannot do this. My son has rights. We will call our lawyers tonight. The board has full authority, Mr. Beaumont, Darius said. He was not loud. He did not need to be. And the chairman has personally signed off. He glanced at Theodore. Theodore gave a small nod. Any other questions, Mr. Beaumont? Bradford opened his mouth. Then he closed it. Then he turned and walked away, pulling Helen by her trembling arm. The room drained like a tub with the plug pulled. Guests left in clusters, some quickly, some slowly. A few, the brave or the suddenly remorseful, paused near Theodore to whisper apologies for things they had not said 30 minutes earlier. Mr. Whitaker, I'm so sorry I didn't speak up, one silver-haired man muttered, his eyes wet. I should have said something. I just stood there. Theodore nodded but said little. A woman in a sapphire blue gown, maybe 50, stopped in front of him and tried twice to speak before she could form the words. My son is at Morehouse, pre-med. I'm going to make him watch the news tomorrow. I want him to know your daughter's name. Theodore took her hand for a brief moment. Tell him to keep reading, he said quietly. That's all. She nodded, tears rolling down both cheeks, and walked away. Chadwick Pemberton tried to slip out a side door. Aaliyah Brooks was leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, phone in her hand. I recorded everything you said tonight, Chadwick, the soup kitchen comment. The earlier comment at the bar about black people and education. All of it. Chadwick paled. That was a joke. You can't use that against me. You can't. Can't I? Aaliyah said. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. She just looked at him until he walked out the door. 48 hours. That was all it took for the world to know. Aaliyah uploaded the audio to TikTok at 10:47 p.m. that same night. She added no caption. She didn't need to. Just Chadwick's voice. Chadwick's tone. His words played and replayed for 300 million people to judge. Looks like the soup kitchen just lost a regular. The clip was paired with the hashtags Beaumont Gala and Magnolia Bluff. By morning, the video had 481,000 views. By noon, 2.1 million. By the end of the second day, 7.4 million. It was trending on every platform. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Threads, Facebook. The post was shared by civil rights activists, by 3 sitting members of the U.S. House of Representatives, by 2 NBA players, and by 4 Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists. Then the press arrived. Renee Mitchell, a reporter at the Charleston Post and Courier, broke the full story Monday morning. Someone at the venue had tipped her off, probably a member of the catering staff, maybe an embarrassed guest. It didn't matter. She had every detail. The headline was devastating. Beaumont-Hayes executive throws father of honoree out of $80,000 gala. Did not know father is true owner of entire company. That same evening, CNN ran the story on Anderson Cooper 360, then MSNBC, then NBC News, then The Root, then Essence, then NPR's All Things Considered. Then every podcast and blog and commentary channel with a microphone and an opinion. Theodore Whitaker's name was suddenly everywhere. Not because he wanted it to be, but because the story was too perfect, too painful, too true. Preston Beaumont III was identified within hours. His LinkedIn was flooded with messages. None of them were kind. His professional headshot became a meme. Someone pasted it next to a calm shot of Theodore on the wrought iron bench with the caption, $8,000 tuxedo, $1.2 billion company, 0 ounces of class. That single image was shared 14 million times on Twitter in 72 hours. But the internet does not stop. It never stops. People dug up his old social media posts. A tweet from 2017. Diversity is just a corporate code word for lowering standards. A photo from his Kappa Sigma fraternity days with a Confederate flag pinned on the wall. A comment under a friend's 2019 Facebook post. If they want equality, let them earn it the way our ancestors did. One receipt after another. The picture they painted was not of a man who had made one bad mistake at one gala. It was of a man who had been this way his entire life. Chadwick Pemberton was fired from the law firm of King and Spalding at 9:17 a.m. on Tuesday. The press release was 2 sentences. King and Spalding does not tolerate racial discrimination in any form. Mr. Pemberton is no longer affiliated with the firm, effective immediately. 2 hours later, the South Carolina Bar Association announced a formal investigation into his ethical conduct. By Thursday night, he had deleted every social media account and disappeared from public view. Inside Beaumont-Hayes Medical Group, things moved fast. The board of directors called an emergency session Monday morning. Theodore attended. It was his first public board appearance in 12 years. He sat at the head of the table in the chairman emeritus seat. He spoke little. He didn't need to. His presence said everything. Beside him sat Darius. On his other side sat Sandra Mosley, a senior partner from the Washington, D.C. firm of Williams & Connolly, a nationally recognized expert in employment discrimination litigation. Before the meeting began, Theodore spoke once, quietly. I want a full external review of every promotion decision made in the last 5 years, he said. Not a friendly one. I want the kind of review that hurts. Sandra Mosley nodded. It will hurt, Mr. Whitaker. Good, Theodore said. Let it hurt the right people for once. The board hired an outside firm, Equal Justice Investigations, to conduct a comprehensive review of Preston's entire department. The findings came back 3 weeks later. It was worse than anyone had feared. 7 additional minority employees, 4 Black, 2 Latino, 1 Native American, had been denied promotions or salary increases under Preston's direct supervision over a 5-year span. Each time, the reason had been vague. Not a fit. Needs more experience. Not ready for leadership. Different words. Same meaning. An additional hostile workplace complaint had been filed 14 months earlier by Dr. Marcus Coleman, the pediatric hematologist Darius had named at the Gala. The complaint described being excluded from key meetings, being passed over for promotion 4 separate times, and one incident in which Preston had referred to him in a March 2023 board dinner as, quote, "our little diversity project," unquote. The complaint had been buried by Vincent Holloway. Vincent was terminated the same week, but the investigation kept uncovering more. Over the previous 18 months, Preston had been inflating his department's performance metrics by allocating revenue from other hospitals into his own reports. The discrepancy was small, only about 4.7%, but it was enough to trigger an investigation by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission for financial misreporting. Dr. Marcus Coleman filed a federal lawsuit Wednesday morning at the U.S. District Court in Charleston under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The complaint ran 78 pages. Beaumont-Hayes Medical Group did not fight back. They cooperated fully and settled with Dr. Coleman for $47.3 million, an amount his attorney described in a press interview as life-changing accountability. At the public press conference that followed, Dr. Coleman said something that brought the entire room to a stop. He spoke about his father. "My father, Ezra Coleman, was one of the 400 black hospital workers who participated in the Charleston hospital workers' strike of 1969, he said. They struck for 113 days, demanding the federal minimum wage and the right to form a union. My father was fired. He was never allowed to work at another hospital in Charleston again. What he fought for is what I am only now able to enjoy. 55 years later, I am still fighting for the same thing. Dignity." That quote ran on the front page of the New York Times the following morning. It was reprinted in the Atlanta Constitution, the Washington Post, and the Los Angeles Times. NPR's morning edition opened with the audio of Dr. Coleman reading it aloud. A retired civil rights attorney in Birmingham, Alabama, wrote a letter to the editor of the Charleston Post and Courier that ended with a line that itself went viral. The strike of 1969 did not end in 1969, she wrote. It ended on a Friday night in 2024 in a ballroom on Magnolia, Bluff, when a quiet man in a Navy suit walked back through the front door of his own company. 5 additional plaintiffs filed companion lawsuits in the following 6 weeks. Among them was Tasha Robinson, a nurse practitioner who had been forced out of the cardiology unit in 2021 after refusing to falsify a patient chart for a senior Beaumont family physician. Also among them was Dr. Andre Bishop, a young pediatric oncologist who had been denied a teaching appointment at the Beaumont-Hayes Children's Hospital, despite publishing 9 peer-reviewed papers in 3 years. Each plaintiff was offered a confidential settlement. Each accepted. The combined total of all settlements exceeded $83 million. Theodore signed off on every figure personally and asked only one question each time. Is the amount enough to give them the freedom to choose their own next step? The answer was always yes. Beaumont-Hayes also issued a public commitment to a complete overhaul of its hiring and promotion practices, the hiring of an independent chief diversity and inclusion officer, and a zero-tolerance policy on any form of discriminatory behavior at any level. The corporation was renamed Whitaker Coleman Medical Group, honoring both the true founder and the doctor who had been first to stand up. Corporate headquarters was moved from the Beaumont family boardroom at Magnolia, Bluff to a new building in downtown Charleston, open to the public for free tours on the first Saturday of every month. The board also approved the creation of the Whitaker Coleman Pediatric Innovation Fellowship, a full-ride scholarship and mentorship program for first-generation pediatric physicians and nurses from underserved communities. The first cohort received 247 applications in 96 hours. The award amount for each fellow was set at $187,000 over 3 years. The same exact figure Theodore had once invested with his late wife's life insurance payout. He had personally insisted on that detail. Bradford Beaumont II tried to negotiate. He called old friends, a state senator he had donated to for 22 years, a reputation management consultant who specialized in scrubbing the internet. Nothing worked. Theodore's legal team was bigger, smarter, better funded, because it was the legal team of Whitaker Health Trust, and they were not playing defense. They were playing offense. Preston's membership at the Carolina Yacht Club, founded in 1883, was revoked by unanimous vote of the membership committee. It was the first such revocation in the club's 120-year history. His name was struck from the organizing committee of the Charleston Garden Society Charity Ball, which he had co-chaired 3 years running. The charity issued a public statement calling his conduct, quote, wholly inconsistent with our values, unquote. Preston's social world did not just shrink, it vanished. Then there was Bradford, his chairman emeritus seat at the Beaumont-Hayes board, the symbolic position he had held for 12 years after selling his family's controlling stake, was voted out by a unanimous 9-0 decision the following month. For the first time in 156 years, no member of the Beaumont family sat in any boardroom of the conglomerate that bore their name. Helen Beaumont resigned from the Junior League of Charleston, not by choice. So where are they now? Theodore Whitaker returned to his small 3-bedroom house in North Charleston. The faucet still drips. He still presses his own clothes on Sunday mornings. He still drives the 2014 Ford Taurus he has owned for 10 years. He still eats breakfast every Saturday morning at Sweet Magnolia Diner on King Street, where the waitress, Brenda, calls him Mr. T and has no idea what his net worth is. But a few things have changed. He now attends the Whitaker-Coleman Medical Group board meetings once a quarter, in person. He sits in the chairman's seat, still in the same Navy suit, still with the same quiet voice. But now everyone in the room knows exactly who he is, and more importantly, they know what he stands for. He has been invited to give the commencement address at Howard University College of Medicine, then at Morehouse School of Medicine, then at Duke, then at Vanderbilt. He speaks on the same topic every time. The suit does not make the man, he tells the graduates. He tells the same story. The gala, the wrought iron bench under the oak, the gray canvas bag, and every time, the auditorium goes silent in the same place, and every time, someone in the audience cries. He does not charge a speaking fee. He never has. Dr. Imani Whitaker was appointed Director of Pediatric Cardiac Surgery at the renamed Coleman Children's Heart Center 3 weeks after the gala. She is the second youngest department director in the history of American pediatric cardiology, at age 32. Her modified Norwood procedure was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in November of 2024 and is now being adopted at 47 children's hospitals nationwide. The 5-year survival rate of newborns with hypoplastic left heart syndrome treated under her protocol has risen from 67% to 89.4%. She is not dating anyone. She says she is not ready. She says she is learning how to tell the difference between being respected for her work and being used for her name. She carries her grandfather's brass compass in the breast pocket of her white coat every shift. She says it reminds her that the right direction never has a price tag. In an interview with the New England Journal of Medicine in February of 2025, she was asked what advice she would give to young women of color entering pediatric medicine today. Find the work that frightens you and is also true to you, she said. Then do it for the rest of your life. Forget everyone who says you cannot. Believe everyone who shows up for you on the worst day, because those are the only people who count. The reporter asked her who counted in her own life. She thought for a long moment. My father, she said. My mother, even though she is gone. Aaliyah Brooks, and every nurse on the night shift in the pediatric cardiac ICU. They are the ones who count. That was the entire answer. She and her father have dinner together every Friday night at Sweet Magnolia Diner. Same corner booth, same waitress, Brenda. Some weeks they talk for hours. Some weeks they just sit beside each other and that is enough. One Friday in January, she finally asked him the question she had wanted to ask for 10 years. Daddy, why did you wait so long to tell me? About the trust. About all of it. He stirred his coffee for a long moment before he answered. Because I wanted you to find your own reason to get up in the morning, baby girl. Not mine. She did not ask again. Darius Holloway was named CEO of the Year by Black Enterprise magazine. His handling of the crisis, the termination, the investigation, the founding of the fellowship, and especially the renaming of the corporation, became a case study at 4 MBA programs, including Harvard Business School and the Wharton School. When a reporter asked him what it was like to walk into that gala, he smiled. In 32 years of Navy and corporate life, I have walked into hundreds of rooms where people underestimated me, he said. That gala was no different. The only difference was that on this particular night, the look on one man's face was worth the entire trip. Dr. Marcus Coleman was appointed the new Director of Equity in Medicine at Whitaker-Coleman Medical Group, a position created specifically for him. He was also invited to serve as an advisor to the U.S. House Committee on Health regarding hiring reform in private healthcare conglomerates. His book, 55 Years of Standing Up, The Story of My Father and Me in Charleston, was published in April of 2025 and spent 6 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. All royalties go to the Charleston Hospital Workers Strike Memorial Fund. Aaliyah Brooks was promoted to Chief Nursing Officer of the Coleman Children's Heart Center at age 34. Her TikTok video is still online. It has over 18 million views as of this writing. Preston Beaumont III cannot find work. Every Google search of his name returns the same meme of his face beside Theodore's. He moved out of state. No one knows exactly where. He sold the $4.2 million house on Daniel Island. Filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy after the settlement awards and credit card debts drained his savings. In the only press interview he has given, a small piece for a freelance reporter at Atlanta Magazine, he was asked if he had any regrets. His answer was unexpected. "I have learned that I was wrong," he said. "Not just that night. I have been wrong in how I have seen people my entire life. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if I deserve to fix it. But I am trying." That was his last public statement. He has not appeared in the press since. Bradford Beaumont II stopped returning calls from old friends. Helen Beaumont moved to Savannah, Georgia to live near her sister. They are unofficially separated after 51 years of marriage. Chadwick Pemberton was disbarred by the South Carolina Bar in January of 2025 after the investigation uncovered 3 additional ethics violations in his 17-year career. Marcus Hayes, the young security guard who hesitated that night, was personally sponsored by Theodore for a full scholarship at Trident Technical College in security management. He graduated with honors in May of 2025 and is now the Director of Security at the Coleman Children's Heart Center. His starting salary is $78,000 a year. In the only public statement he has ever made about the Gala, Theodore Whitaker said this: "I did not build Whitaker Health Trust to impress anyone. I built it so my daughter would have more choices than I ever had. And that night, it did something even better than that. It reminded a room full of people that dignity does not follow a dress code." That quote ended up on T-shirts. It was read at college commencement speeches. It has been tattooed on the arms of at least 7 people in the first month after it was published. On a quiet Friday evening in March of 2026, 18 months after the gala, Theodore and Imani were sitting at Sweet Magnolia Diner. Their corner booth, Brenda brought them their usual, 2 plates of slow-cooked brisket and a bowl of black-eyed peas. "Y'all want sweet tea tonight or unsweetened, Mr. T?" she asked. Theodore smiled. "Sweet tonight, Brenda. We're celebrating something." Brenda raised an eyebrow but did not ask. She never asked. Outside the window, the sun was setting behind a palmetto tree. An old truck rolled past, its horn beeping at someone across the street. "Daddy," Imani said quietly, "I had a new patient today, 11 days old, hypoplastic left heart syndrome, stage 3. "The parents?" Theodore asked. "Mama is 19, no insurance. From Orangeburg. She took a 4-hour bus to get to the hospital. She brought her grandmother with her. Grandmother sat in the waiting room for 6 hours holding the baby's empty car seat and praying." Theodore nodded slowly. He did not ask the next question. He knew it. "The hospital is reviewing a fee waiver," Imani went on. "But she needs somewhere to stay near the hospital for the 6-week post-operative recovery. We don't have a program for that. She told me she might have to sleep in her car. Daddy, in her car." "We do now," Theodore said. Imani looked up. "Daddy, are you saying—" "I'm saying we do now." He did not need to say more. By Monday morning, the Whitaker-Coleman Family Housing Initiative was officially announced with a starting endowment of $12 million, enough to provide free housing for the families of pediatric patients coming to the medical center from disadvantaged counties across the Southeast. The first patient family was the 11-day-old baby boy from Orangeburg. The baby's name was Cornelius, after Theodore's father.
Next week. So, my question to you tonight is this. Have you ever watched someone get just looked down on, humiliated, put out of the room simply because of how they look, because of color of their skin, because of the bright of their clothes? What did you do? And if you could go back that moment right now, standing in restroom, the words still ringing in your ears, would you do anything differently? Leave your answer in the comment below. I read every single one. If this story moves you, hit the like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel. I will do it in the next video. But before you go, remember this. Your character is not measured by how you treat the people who can help you. It is measured by how you treat the people you think you can do for you. Don't wait. Don't wait. You are surprised to do the right thing. I wrote this story on the Wednesday evening in Atlanta after read a ProPublica investigation about reality of physician who has been denied promotion at the hospital Tennessee. The number were real, the name were not, but the pain was real. And I keep thinking, if just one of you, just one person, finish the story and decide that's the next time you see someone being humiliated, you will not stay silent. Then this story will have done its job. So, tell me in the comment your story, the time you stood up for someone, or the time someone stood up for you. I read everyone. See you next week. Bye bye.